Hello Year 10, this video is going to go through ratio and some of the different skills that you need to be able to do with ratio. So we're going to start with simplifying ratios. So simplifying ratios is very like simplifying fractions. You look for the largest number that goes into both parts. So we want the highest common factor of 3 and 12. Okay, HCF of 3 and 12. So 3 is the biggest number that goes into both. We're going to divide both numbers by 3, which gives us 1 to 4. Okay, and the next one, we're looking for the largest number that goes into 12 and 18. So the highest common factor is 6. We divide by 6 on both sides, which will give us 2 to 3. If you didn't know that the highest common factor was 6 and you say divided by 2 to begin with, divided 12 and 18 by 2, that would give you 6 to 9. And then you might recognise that both 3 goes into 6 and 9. So divide by 3 and you would still end up with the same answer. So if you're not sure what the highest common factor is, you can do it in stages, just like you can simplify fractions in stages. So if we just look at this one, there are 2 different units here. So you've got minutes and you've got hours. To be able to simplify this ratio, you need to have the units the same. And you may see other questions like that where you have, say, grams and kilograms or centimetres and metres. And you have to make the units the same before you can simplify the ratio. So 2 hours is 2 lots of 60 minutes, which is 120 minutes. We can write that as 30 to 120, that's in minutes. The highest common factor of both of those is 30, so we're going to divide by 30 on both sides, which gives us 1 to 4. Another skill that you need to know how to do is reducing ratio to the form 1 to n, or in fact to the form n to 1. Sometimes the 1's on the left, like in the first question, sometimes the 1 is on the right. So what they're asking you to do here is they want the first part of the ratio, the 5, to become a 1. Okay, and to get from 5 to 1, we would divide by 5. Okay, so we need to do the same on this side. So we're going to divide by 5 to make that first number 1. We do the same on the right hand side, which gives us 1 to 4. Okay, on this one, we, if you notice here, you've got 10 to 50, which has to be written in the form n to 1, and the 1 is on the right hand side, so the 50 has to become a 1 this time. These sorts of questions often confuse people because they just assume that you're going to divide by the smaller number, but that isn't always the case, and sometimes when you're writing ratios in the form 1 to n or n to 1, you can end up with a fraction or a decimal. And in this case, we're going to have to divide by 50 on both sides. So the number that you want to make a 1 is always the number you divide by. Okay, so that's an important thing to remember. The number you want to convert to a 1 is always the number you divide by. So we're going to divide by 50 on both sides. Okay, so 50 divided by 50 is obviously 1. That should be a 50, sorry, not 30. Apologies. So we're going to divide by 50 on both sides. That's going to give us 1/5 to 1. Okay, so 50 divided by 50 is 1. 10 divided by 50, we think of it as a fraction, 10 over 50 simplifies to 1/5. And indeed, if you did it on a calculator, you might get 0.2 to 1, which would just, that would equally be correct. Okay. So another skill is turning ratio into fractions. So in order to share in a given ratio, you need to be able to turn ratios into fractions. Okay, so if we look at this ratio here, we've got 3 cupcakes to 4 ice creams. So we can write that as 3 to 4. Okay, and if we had a question which asked what fraction are ice creams, well, a fraction is the number of parts, we have out of the total number of parts. Okay, so we've got 4 ice creams out of 7 treats altogether, so that's 4/7. If we were asked to write what fraction are cupcakes, there are 3 cupcakes out of 7 things altogether, so that's 3 out of 7. So the method is to get the denominator, the bottom number in the fraction, you need to find the total that there is altogether, and the numerator is always the given part of the ratio. So if it's cupcakes, it's 3, if it's ice creams, it's 4. Okay? So just to recap, if we had 3 dogs to 7 cats and we were asked what fraction are cats, we add the ratios to get the denominator. So we want to know how many parts there are altogether, which is 10. And there are 7 cats, so this is the numerator, 7 cats out of 10 animals. You can write as 7/10. If we had a ratio with 3 parts, 2 pens to 5 pencils to 11 sharpeners, we want to know what fraction are pencils. Add the ratio up, so we add them up to give us the denominator. 2 plus 5 plus 11 is 18. And the pencils, there are 5, so that's the numerator. So we can say there are 5 pencils out of 18 bits of stationery altogether. Okay? So when you're sharing in a given ratio, and these questions you'll have definitely seen before. So an example is if we were going to share £20 in the ratio 2 to 3. Okay? So the first step is to turn the ratios into the fractions. So add the parts together to get the denominator. So if you're sharing 2 to 3, that means one person is getting 2/5 and the other person is getting 3/5. There's 5 parts altogether, 2 parts going to one person, 3 parts going to the other person. So then you find the fractions of the full amount. So you want to find 2/5 of £20. To find 2/5, or to find a fraction of an amount, you divide by the denominator and then multiply the numerator. So dividing by the denominator tells us how much 1/5 is. We want 2/5, so we multiply that answer by 2, which is £8. And similarly with 3/5, you want to find 3 parts out of 5 parts altogether. Divide by 5 to get 1 part, multiply by 3 to get the value of 3 parts. Sorry, it keeps jumping. Okay, so once you've got your answer, so the ratio shared in the ratio, the £20 shared in the ratio 2 to 3 is £8 to £12. You write it in ratio form. So you write your answer in ratio form, okay, unless you're asked for just one part of it. Okay, so let's just look at an example. Liz and Shane, this is slightly more complex. They share their money in the ratio 3 to 7. And this time it tells you how much Liz gets. It doesn't tell you how much they're sharing, it tells you how much Liz gets. So if we think of their ratio 3 to 7, Liz has 3 shares and she gets £54. So we want to work out how much one share is. 3 shares is equal to £54. So to find one share, we divide by 3, which gives us £18, that's one share. And to work out how much Shane gets, we could multiply by 7. Okay, so he would get £126, and in total they would have £54 plus £126, which is £180. You could have done it in one go as well. You want to know how much they have in total. Yeah. If you work out one part by dividing by 3, you could have then multiplied by 10 to get 10 parts, because they have 3 plus 7, which is 10 parts altogether. Okay. So what I would advise you to do is to refer back to this video when you're completing the questions on Maths Watch. The questions do cover pretty much all the different types of ratio skill that we've gone through here. And as usual, get in touch with your teacher if you need some more help. Thank you for watching.